Give him a curse. Get it over.
All right. Welcome to the weekly press conference. A couple things. Sunday, we do have 2 games, but it's not considered a double header. We're going to clear the building and then do re-enter for the men's game. So the women tip off at 11:30. The men are at 3. We're going to start off the press conference with Coach Jake. Coming off a split weekend, open up, picked up a road win against Bradley, and then fell at home to Southern Illinois. They're back on the road, actually leaving right after the press conference. Take on Illinois State before returning home for that Sunday afternoon game against Drake. Coach?
Thanks, Derek. I don't think I've mentioned it yet. Our fall GPA for the guys was 3.09. Gives us another semester at or above 3.0, or just right there. I think that's been 17 of the last 17 semesters. Most of them have been at 3.0 or higher. There's been a handful of them that have been just below a 3.0. I don't think we've had one lower than 2.75 or right at 2.8. So it's the guys have continued to do a very good job in the classroom. That 3.09 for this fall was was great to see. With that, I would take your questions about Illinois State or our stuff, what we got going.
What do you anticipate on seeing out of Illinois State on Tuesday? A team that obviously shot it very well at their place a year ago, and Yarborough, one of the top players in the league, has been kind of inconsistent. But when he has it going, it seems like his skill set's pretty impressive there. Yeah, and he's off to a good start in the two league games, and he played well in a number of the non-conference games as well. But he's played good basketball in here recently. When you look at Yarborough and Evans and Fain, you're talking about 3 guys that are 3 of the top 10 or so guys in our league. Those 3 guys can really play, and they've got experience. And when they're on the floor together a lot, you've got a lot to deal with the 3 of them. And Yarborough's got so much versatility. That's what's made him one of the better players in our league. Is it isn't just about scoring with him. He's very capable of getting to 20. He could do that on any given night. But you look at his rebounding numbers, you look at his assist numbers. He does so many things. With the basketball in his hands, he puts a lot of pressure on your defense because it's more than just scoring, just taking shots. And they've like I said, he's terrific, as we know. Those 3 guys as seniors, what they've done already and how they've played. But then they've added they've added some good players. Some guys that are very important to them right now. They've got 3 or 4 guys playing for them right now that weren't on the team last year, that are really playing well and very important to what they're doing. What do you look at as keys defensively against a team like that?
Well, I think. We talk about it every year. Maybe just a little bit more important this year in terms of how we defend the block. Being a little bit undersized there, in particular when Luke's in the basketball game. When Justin's in it, and we saw it against Southern. Justin did a good job of keeping Pippen farther away from the basket when he caught it. So when he's in the game, we're a little bit bigger, a little more physical there. But with Luke, as we know, we've had to find some different ways to defend the low block. That will be important against Fain. Yarborough will also post quite a bit, so you've got to defend him on the low block. Then it becomes really important that you keep the basketball in front of you. Because if they're able to take advantage of some things on the block, or if they beat you off the dribble, if both of those are happening, then that's when those guys get some shots from the three-point line. And that happened to us some last year. You refer to that game last year when they made a bunch of them. We didn't do a good enough job of defending the low block, and then our rotations coming out of it. We didn't do a good enough job of guarding the basketball. That led to some of those three-point shots, and then being a little bit more open when we were working to get to close out on those shooters. So we've got to defend the low block. We've got to keep the ball in front of us. That then needs to help us get to the guys that shoot the basketball for them.
Despite coming up short on Saturday, it seemed like it was a really good week defensively for the team. What are a couple things that you think, or a couple things that stuck out about what they were able to get done in putting together a couple good defenses?
Well, the first thing is we played harder. I think a couple things. I think guys, settled in a little bit more in terms of two things: what their role is on our team, but then also just being able to step on the court and have made the decision that you're going to make some things happen at both ends of the floor. We saw some guys that were more aggressive at the offensive end of the floor. We saw it a lot in those two basketball games of guys just playing harder defensively. And along with that, the communication picked up. Those would be the two things I would tell you. Going at, and that's, we got a lot done last week in those two games because we played so hard defensively. And we just got done practicing, and we had a good workout again. We had some guys that same thing, playing really hard defensively. The communication was good, and that's what it's got to be there each day on the practice floor. It's got to be there when you take the game floor. I'll tell you the most important thing for us right now is that we continue to play really hard, and then find a way to play harder, and that'll be the key for us defensively.
What's the latest on E. Goldman, and it's official now on Austin Fife redshirting?
Yeah, Austin will not play. Yep, and then we'll put in for that red shirt, and that'll get decided in the spring. Yeah, but yeah, he will not see action. Big Ed, I don't know how long it's going to be. He's got that lower leg injury, and we'll just have to see how it responds. Is what I'm being told. So I don't know if it's going to be good in a week to 10 days, or if it's going to be 3-4 weeks. At this point, I don't know.
How much has that kind of adjusted the roles now? Do you anticipate having either Luke or Justin out on the court at all times, or going with like a 5 guard with Trey at the 5, or how do you kind of?
Yeah, and I would. We would anticipate having Luke or Justin on the floor. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of those two guys on the floor at all times. Now there may be some situations where we've got to go smaller with Trey and Ty as our two biggest guys on the floor, and then Isaiah and whomever else in that backcourt. Some of that may come up, Nick, but right now our plan would be to have either Luke or Justin on the floor.
How's Isaiah Brown looked in practice recently? And part of the reason I ask is the boost he was able to give you guys this past Wednesday night. It sure seems like when he's providing things on both ends of the floor, it really just lifts the rest of the team up.
Yeah, he was terrific at Bradley. That without going back through all of my mind, that may have been the best overall game he's played since he's been here. And he did it again to start the second half. He made some really good plays to start the second half against Southern on Saturday. So I just feel like he's turned the corner or flipped the switch or whatever you want to put on it. That happened for him, and it was something that he had to make a decision that he was going to go out and make some plays, because he's I've told him he's a really good basketball player, and we were at the point where he needed to decide that he was going to go out and have an impact on the game, and not wait for the game to continue to come his way. That he was going to go out and make plays at both ends, and he did that last week for us. And I think he's turned that corner. I expect that we will see that again on Tuesday.
Offensively, both the Bradley and Southern Illinois game kind of slow starts, a lot of threes early. What do you think it's going to take to get some shots to fall, early in these games?
Yeah, I mean, going back through both of those, Nick, I tell you, the possessions were good possessions. That's the in some ways the hard or tricky part, and in other ways not. We've got the right guys shooting them, and we've got a lot of guys that can make them. We've got on this team, we've got a bunch of these guys are in here all the time. They're in here shooting shots. And we had a couple of guys in here Sunday morning on their own, on what was a day off for us. There's guys in here again this morning before we practiced at 10. So they're doing all the right things, and they can really, we got guys that can really shoot the basketball. If we were having possessions that weren't good possessions, and we were having to take shots where we're dribbling around trying to get a shot off, early in the game, we've had some very good possessions, and most of those shots have been catch and shoot type shots, and they've been by the guys and we've got a lot of them. So multiple guys that we're comfortable with taking those shots early in the basketball game. There's been second half. Against Southern, against Bradley, we were pretty good. But against Southern, that last
8 to 10 minutes, things got slowed down a little bit, and so there's some areas in the game where we've got to continue to move, and with the basketball, we've got to have guys that are continuing to move and do some things. But in terms of the way we started and the possessions that we're having and the shots that we're getting, Nick, they're really good for this team. They're really good for this team.
What have you seen out of Illinois State defensively in their 2 conference games? They're only giving up 52 points in their first 2, and they were giving up 74, almost 75 in their non-conference games. What did they do different?
Yeah, I don't. I don't know that they've done a whole lot different. Now, Chastain is playing 30 minutes a game in the 2 conference games. He wasn't playing as much in the non-conference games, and it looks like they like him in that lineup from a defensive standpoint, from a rebounding standpoint. He does a good job of moving the basketball for him. So that may be part of it, Garrett. And they've got good, Evans is a really good on-ball defender and a really good defender, period. And then after that, they've got good size. With Copeland, Chastain, Yarborough, Fain, those guys are 6'4" to 6'8", and can move and really cover ground. So it's a very good defensive team. And this may be a little bit of a switch in terms of how much Chastain is playing and what he brings to him in terms of, defensively, he's on the floor, he's taking charges, he's rebounding the basketball. So that may be part of it.
The second conference game this week against Drake, Coach DeVries, a guy with local connections here to UNI and such. What have you made out of what he was able to do during the non-conference with that rebuilt roster, and how much has that team kind of changed now without Norton?
Yeah, I haven't watched him much, so the second part of it, not really able to answer. In terms of what Darren has done, in a short time, he's done a terrific job. I've talked about it some with the recruiting that they did in the spring and the way that they refilled that roster and built that thing in the spring was impressive. And those guys are good players, as they showed in November and December. And without having watched a lot of their games yet, just knowing what Norton, the kind of player that he is, that's a tough one when it's your point guard and it's a guy that's he's been, this is his 5th year playing, so he's an older guy. So that's going to have an impact on their team. Now, I followed the score enough that they got off to a great start against Loyola and made shots and got up 16 so they've got a good roster, and Darren's done a great job of putting that thing together, and they had a great November, December. Good. All right, thanks. Yep.
Move on to Coach Schwab. They picked back up with Big 12 action this week. They are on the road at South Dakota State before going to a non-conference duel against Nebraska. Coach?
Let's see. Don't have a whole lot to say. Had a good week of practice. Have an extra week off of school right now. Usually start back school today, so another week just to be able to train and get guys ready for obviously this weekend going to South Dakota State, Nebraska. Then we come back next week, got Mizzou, and then next home duel the 20th against Air Force. So have a lot of duels coming up. But just a lot of opportunity, since the Midlands, we've had some time to be able to just train. We didn't have anything this last weekend, really by design, too. You come off that tournament, and it's nice to be able to have a little time to train, a little time where you can give guys a few days, maybe extra off, but also that you can focus on some areas and really make some gains in some positions that you feel are necessary. We've been spending a lot of time on bottom and like the response. We had a workout this morning. And was really happy with how guys push themselves. Very important that they learn how to function when they're fatigued and tired. It's part of the sport, getting tired. It's part of wrestling matches that you have to learn how to push yourself and learn how to be able to stay in there and learn how to overcome that. So we got them tired this morning, and they responded well. So I was really happy with the work that they put in. Really the work that they put in the last week and really all year. I think there's been an increased focus and really an intention when they're coming into the practice room, not just to go through practice and go through the motions, but to really try to improve and get better. Because sometimes you can just come in and you can kind of go through the motions and you can get through it and not improve. Just because you punch your time clock doesn't mean that improvement's there, but really focusing on improving. And guys have taken heart of that, and I think we're going to continue to see that more and more in our results, and really focus on really what we can. So good effort this morning. This week training's been good. We'll have a couple more workouts, and then we head to Thursday to South Dakota State, wrestle them in Nebraska. So I don't know if anybody's got any questions, but SDSU, don't know if Gross will be back or not. He didn't wrestle in Midlands. They have a few guys that are in the rankings. They lost a few guys last year. They had a couple All-Americans that graduated. They had a couple other guys that transferred. But I know it's a hostile environment. It's actually a pretty fun environment up there. We went up there last year, and they did beat us in that duel. So you remember those things. Obviously, for us, we want to get a roll going. So what I mean by that, you get some momentum. It's hard to get momentum, winning one match, then losing the next, or win. Just from momentum, from an effort and hustle and fight, which I think coming off Midlands, not going to be hard to do. From how we've competed, how we finished, be able to build some momentum from there, and then just continue to carry that over. Nebraska, some big head-to-head matchups. A guy like Schwarm's wrestled Moise a couple times, and Moise's beat him a couple times, so you want to be able to see that turnaround. 41, wrestled the guy before. He's in the rankings. 57, guy just beat, I think, the number 2 guy in the country yesterday. So he'll probably be ranked 2. 65 guys in the top, 5 or 6. He actually won Vegas, won the bracket that Bryce was in. 74 is in the top 10. 84's beat us the last couple times, and actually had a match at Vegas that Drew scored 3 takedowns in the third period. But you can't let yourself get behind 5-6 points. It's tough to come back against a good opponent to be able to do that. So I know he's looking forward to that match. They got I think a top 10 guy at 97 and maybe top 10, 12 at heavyweight. So Nebraska has a very good team. Great opportunity for our guys, and just really looking forward to a team effort where every single guy goes out and fights for his team. And maybe you beat some guys that maybe on paper you're not supposed to, and really for us to win that duel, we're going to need to do that. But got to take care of South Dakota State first, but really just looking to see our guys get some momentum and really hustle and fight through every single thing, every single position. And we've done a better job of it, I can tell you, from the first tournament. From the first tournament to Midlands, there's been a huge jump, and just the focus and awareness, and I think that the risk guys are taking. We're giving ourselves more opportunities, and that's really all I've asked the guys. Give ourselves more opportunities, give ourselves a chance to win matches, and really to leave a mark on your opponent. And the only way to do that is you compete at an incredibly high level. You compete incredibly hard, and you don't let that guy have anything easy. So we have that in our control. We've been practicing on it, and we'll continue to practice on it and look forward to being able to do it Saturday and Sunday in South Dakota and in Nebraska. So I know hopefully some fans coming over. We'd love to see some purple. I'll let you sit on the bench too. We got some room. I tried to get one of the good friends of our program. He's also good friends with Coach Manning, unfortunately. And I don't know if he's coming to the meet or not. I tried to make sure that he was wearing purple, but I know he's really cheering for us. But he might not say it out loud, but I know he is. Other than that, I don't know if anybody's got any questions. If not,
what do you look at as kind of the keys getting back with these conference opponents, and obviously those types of environments you're going to encounter in Nebraska and South Dakota State? What do you look at as kind of the keys for your team to find some success there on the road?
I think we've been pretty dang good on the road. To me, going into an enemy, so-called enemy territory and making it quiet, that's the best thing ever. Unless you got your little patch of crowd that's cheering. I think for us, it's consistency. Every single time, it's not kind of, well, man, we really like what we saw in that match, and we're not sure about this match. But I can tell you why the guys have been consistent in where they're at is because they're consistent in their daily life, how they're taking care of things, how they're training every day, the focus and effort that they're giving, not once in a while, every day. So I want us to start, beating some guys on paper that we're not supposed to. And to do that, you're going to have to stay in matches. You're going to have to maybe weather some storms, but also you're just going to have to be ready to go punch first and then keep punching. So that's, you ask what I want to see out of our guys. I want to see that. I want to see our training take hold. The things that we're talking about in there in the room that are important and how they're competing in the room has to transfer into competition and then hopefully even raises another level. But just to build some momentum, I mean, you start talking about seeding in national terms, you start talking about seeding in Big 12 and those things, and the way that you get seeded really high is you just keep beating guys. You keep winning matches. But I know we need to get some momentum. Our team, our guys, just put a string of consistent performances together. I think Midlands was good. For the 5 guys scored about 120 points for us. But you got 10 guys that are going out and competing in a duel, so we need all 10 guys doing that.
How good a measuring stick is this for you? Is this another good one with back-to-back really quality opponents, and you're traveling back-to-back days?
Yeah, I think we've done multiple back-to-back already with when we went out east, we went back-to-back days. Vegas, we went back-to-back days. The Midlands, we went back-to-back days. I think that's important just because you go to a national tournament, you have to go back. You obviously have to go back-to-back-to-back. You got to go 3 days. But that's, I think, something that we put on our schedule is we wanna be able to have to go back-to-back, where you have to get up again. Because, if you can only get up for one match, then you're in the backside of the national tournament. You have to be able to get up again, and getting our guys to be able to, because not every time out you're going to feel great, and be able to kind of push that aside and be able to focus on what they can control. Nebraska's got a good team. I mean, they do. We haven't got to wrestle them for quite a few years. I think it's been maybe 5 or 6 years since we got to wrestle those guys. So look forward to that. We've been wanting to get them back on the schedule because, one, it makes a lot of sense. We're close in proximity. The coach used to coach here, so there's some history there, and they always have a good team. And we want to wrestle the best teams, and that's what we've tried to put on our schedule with our Big 12 schedule. But with who we filled in outside of that, we're always going to try to put a top 10, a top 5, a top 20, a Big 10 team. I mean, we're trying to get more on the schedule right now for next year. We love competing against those teams and going head to head with them and seeing where we're at, and like I said, just opportunity for seeding, for points, for everything that it does, and just to build momentum. Man, you go beat the number 3 guy in the country. Now, a guy like Foster, and all of a sudden, then he's the number 2 or number 3 guy in the country. He goes and beats that guy. So, I don't know about measuring stick. I think you're measuring yourself every day, but I like wrestling Big 10 teams. It's good. It's good for us. It's good for our guys because that's kind of where we want to measure ourselves against.
Speaking of that, do you anticipate a duel with Iowa in the near future?
I would say no. I don't really want to talk about it. I mean, we can talk about that, and we could have a whole other subject and long conversation about that. But all we can do is we can practice and compete against who we can. Our best thing is to go score as many points as we can in the national tournament. I mean, go outpoint those teams there, and then you can just put your hands up and be like, okay, So we still have a lot left to prove. We'd love to wrestle them. We'd also love to wrestle Minnesota, Northwestern, and Illinois, and Wisconsin, and all these teams that are within 4 or 5 hours of us. We want to wrestle all those teams. We start to get limited a little bit, because all those teams are probably like, well, you want to all wrestle us? Well, I don't know if we'll be able to put every single one of them on the schedule, but we would. I mean, we want to wrestle those teams, and we inquired to wrestle those teams because it's good for our guys, and it's good for the sport, man. You want to see 2 high-level programs competing against each other. So my focus isn't that. We went to Midlands so we could compete against them, and I like the Midlands tournament where it was at this year. We'll see about next year if we go back or not, but we did this year. So anything else? Nope. Go Panthers. Keep asking me that. You want me to say something?
I needed that word. The word is that you want to wrestle them.
For sure.
Is that it, Jared?
Fine designer,
All right, we'll have Coach Warren. The women are coming off of a thrilling overtime win at Bradley after to wrap up a split weekend to start conference. Have 2 games at home this weekend, starting Friday against Valpo, and then against Sunday morning, we are going to host Loyola. That game again, 11:30. We'll clear the building after the game, and then the men's game is at 3. So, Coach.
Good weekend. It was a battle, as I said, Valley play would be. To be honest, I thought we played pretty well for a majority of the game on Friday. And then probably the last 4 minutes, I think Illinois State took a page out of our book. I thought they outworked us. I thought they out-executed us. And we didn't. And with that being said, we still had a chance, and we just didn't get it done. But I think you got to take your hats off to Illinois State. They did a lot of things right down the stretch, and we didn't. But it was a great game, to say the least. One that we probably should have had, and we didn't. And what we had to be able to do is move on. And I was anxious to see how we would respond. And I thought we played terrific basketball yesterday. You go up, you get a lead, and that's athletics. It's a game of runs. You got to be able to minimize and maximize. And I thought, we went up, and I knew Bradley was going to make a run, and they did. And I really liked how our kids handled it. I thought, we could have easily ducked our heads when they sent it into overtime, but we kept battling, and found a way to win. And you got to be able to do that on the road. Our goal, you want to get 2, but our goal is to always get a split, and we was able to do that. I thought we got some good productivity out of our bench this weekend. I thought Cynthia Wolf was very good against Illinois State, and I thought Cam Finley was very good yesterday. We're going to continue to need that. I thought Michaela Morgan was fantastic the second half. We're going to continue to need those types of productivity, especially off of our bench. But I tell you, I liked how this team battled. It's good to be home. We're excited to be home. It feels like we haven't been in the McLeod for a long time. Obviously, we're off today. We got to get some nagging injuries taken care of and get some rest, and then we'll get back to work tomorrow on a lot of us, and then obviously on Valpo and Loyola, and both teams are much improved. Valpo has a new coach, a new system, and Loyola, I think she's done a terrific job. A lot of those kids are this is their 3rd year being together. You see the improvement in what they've been able to do in the non-conference. And as I've said many, many times, and I will continue to say, there's no such thing as a gimme. You got to be ready to play, and we will be ready to play this weekend. Any questions?
Coach, what are your thoughts on what you saw out of Cam Finley there? I know she didn't play against Illinois State and then comes out and has a great game for you against Bradley.
This is what I thought Cam would be able to bring to us. I really thought in the non-conference, Cam was forcing some things, and I think at this level, especially as a freshman, you have to allow the game to come to you and be confident in doing that. And if you were, I watched it live, it was 2 different people in the fact that she was so confident in just allowing the game to come to her. And it started on the defensive end for Cam. She was disruptive. She was confident in what she was doing and how she was doing it. And offensively, she just flowed. She allowed the game to come to her. She took what defense gave her, and she continued to knock down shots in a variety of ways. And when we recruited Cam, that's what we saw in Cam. And she's very capable of doing that on both ends of the floor for us.
Cynthia seems like it's been really efficient and probably one of your better scores as far as points per minute. What's going to be the next step for her now?
Well, she's got to continue to understand the physicality of the game, especially in boxing out and rebounding. She's going to continue to be able to give us good minutes. She shoots the three very well, but she just has to continue to understand the physicality of the game on both sides of the basketball. But CJ runs well. Her hands have to get a little bit better, and it's something that she is working on. Extremely coachable. If she can stay healthy, she's going to continue to progress and give us great minutes. But as she progresses, this team will progress consistently because of what she's able to do offensively.
Along those lines, I know out-rebounded by an average of 5 through the first 2 conference games. Obviously, you're missing a big piece that was a part of that. What are going to be the keys on the boards going forward?
Well, we have to box out, and it's got to be everybody. You know, you said it. We lost an extremely important piece on both sides with losing Megan, but we still have to be able to box out. Our guards have to be able to do a little bit more in terms of rebounding for us. But it comes down to will. Boxing out is not, rebounding's not necessarily a skill as much as it is a will and I want to. And we have to get that will and I want to consistently. It's not easy. We know that, but we got to get back to doing the little things, and it's across the board. All 5 kids have to box out and rebound.
How happy were you with how this team shot the ball at the free throw line this past weekend?
You know, it's interesting, and that's a great point. I think we shot 6
of 7.
in the Illinois State game, 6 of 7, and to come back and shoot 27 of 30 the next time out, and I believe we were 6 for 6 at halftime. So to get to the free throw line as well as we did and as consistent as we did in the second half and in overtime of that game obviously was an important part and an important piece of why we won that basketball game. But I liked our aggressiveness, and that's something that we have to continue to do. This team is capable of getting to the free throw line. We have good free throw shooters. We have to make that a priority. Any other questions? Thank you.